Session 2 of Active Listening Mastery, 15 Practical Lessons for Better Communication. The hidden habits that make people feel unheard. Have you ever noticed that someone who once shared everything with you now gives short answers, changes the subject, or says, "It's fine," even when you can tell something is wrong? You may care deeply about that person. You may believe you are a good listener. Yet sometimes people stop sharing not because they do not trust our intentions, but because small listening habits repeatedly make them feel unheard.
I had this amazing idea for the project. I thought we could perhaps... Never mind, it's clearly not a good time.
Most people do not decide after one conversation that they will never open up again. Trust usually weakens quietly. It can happen when we interrupt before someone finishes, look at our phone while they are speaking, immediately offer advice, or turn their experience into a story about ourselves. Each habit may seem small, especially when we do not mean to be disrespectful. But from the other person's perspective, the message can sound like this: "Your thoughts are not important enough for my full attention." In this lesson, we will explore the hidden habits that make people feel unheard and learn how to replace them with respectful listening behaviors. The goal is not to become silent or agree with everything someone says. The goal is to create conversations where people feel safe, understood, and valued. One of the most common listening mistakes is interrupting. Sometimes we interrupt because we are excited, because we think we understand, or because we want to help quickly. Imagine that your friend Daniel says, "I've been feeling overwhelmed at work because my manager keeps changing the deadlines." Before he finishes, you say, "You should talk to human resources. That happened to me too." Your response may be well-intentioned, but Daniel has not finished explaining what is happening. He may not need a solution yet. He may need space to describe the problem. A better response is to allow a short pause after he finishes and say, "That sounds frustrating. What has been the hardest part for you?" This shows that you are interested in his experience rather than rushing toward your own conclusion. Pausing can feel uncomfortable because silence often makes us think we must say something immediately, but a brief pause gives the speaker time to continue and gives you time to understand. Another hidden habit is preparing your answer while the other person is still talking. Your body may be facing them, and you may even nod, but your mind is already building a response. You may be deciding whether you agree, planning a defense, or searching for the perfect advice. In that moment, you are hearing words without fully listening to meaning. Consider a student named Amina who tells her classmate, "I studied for weeks, but I still failed the exam." Her classmate immediately thinks, "I need to tell her how I studied," and waits for a chance to speak. But Amina may be feeling embarrassed, disappointed, or afraid that she is not capable. If the classmate responds only with study techniques, the emotional part of the message may be missed. Instead, the classmate could say, "You worked hard and the result was disappointing. You seem really discouraged." This does not solve the problem, but it shows that the feeling was noticed. After that, the classmate can ask, "Would you like to talk about what happened, or would you like help thinking about what to do next?" This simple question respects the speaker's needs instead of assuming them. Changing the subject is another habit that can quietly damage trust. Sometimes we change the subject because the conversation feels uncomfortable. Sometimes we do it because we are distracted, or because another topic suddenly comes to mind. Imagine that a woman tells her partner, "I felt lonely when you were away so often this month." Her partner responds, "Speaking of being away, did you remember to book the trip?" The subject has changed, but the emotional message remains unanswered. When people repeatedly experience this pattern, they may conclude that difficult feelings are not welcome. A more respectful response would be, "I did not realize you were feeling that lonely. I want to understand. Can you tell me more about what that month was like for you?" The conversation can move to practical plans later. First, the person needs to know that their concern was received.
"I'm really glad we're talking. I was feeling so disconnected and hurt when you walked away. I feel much safer now."
I'm listening.
Giving unwanted advice can also make people feel unheard. Advice is not always harmful. Good advice can be valuable when it is requested, relevant, and offered respectfully. The problem occurs when advice replaces understanding. Imagine that your sister says, "I'm nervous about starting a new job." You quickly reply, "Just be confident." Make a schedule, meet everyone, and stop worrying. You may be trying to encourage her, but she may hear, "Your feelings are unnecessary and I do not want to listen to them." A more helpful response might be, "Starting somewhere new can feel uncertain. What are you most nervous about?" After listening, you can ask, "Would you like me to help you think through it? Or do you mainly want someone to listen?" This question is powerful because it gives the speaker a choice. Sometimes people want ideas. Sometimes they want reassurance. Sometimes they simply need to say something aloud without being corrected or fixed. Checking a phone during a conversation is one of the clearest signals of divided attention. Even if you say, "I'm listening," repeated glances at a screen can communicate something different. The speaker may wonder whether they should continue, repeat themselves, or stop sharing. Imagine a father telling his adult daughter about a difficult problem at work while she repeatedly reads messages on her phone. She may believe she is listening because she occasionally says, "Yeah, I understand," but her attention is divided. He may finish the conversation feeling less important than the notifications on her screen. When possible, place the phone out of sight or turn it face down. If you are expecting an urgent message, explain that before the conversation begins. If you must check the phone, say, "I need to respond to this quickly, but I want to hear the rest of what you are saying." Then return your attention fully. Respectful listening is not about never having distractions. It is about managing them honestly and showing that the person matters. Making assumptions is another habit that causes misunderstanding. We often believe we know why someone acted a certain way because we know their personality or remember something from the past. But assumptions can turn a conversation into a judgment before we have heard the full story. A team leader might say to an employee, "You missed the deadline because you were not organized." The employee may actually have been waiting for information from another department. The assumption creates defensiveness and makes honest communication more difficult. A better approach is curiosity. The leader could ask, "I noticed the deadline was missed. Can you help me understand what happened?" This question does not ignore responsibility. It creates room for facts before conclusions. Curiosity helps people explain themselves, while assumptions often force people to defend themselves.
We missed the deadline.
I'm still waiting on the data. The analytics team has a delay. The analytics team has a delay. That's the main dependency.
Another common mistake is turning someone else's experience into a personal story. This often begins with the words, "That happened to me too." Sharing a similar experience can build connection, but timing matters. Suppose a friend says, "My grandmother is seriously ill and I'm afraid of losing her." You immediately begin describing your own loss in detail. Your story may be meaningful, but the attention has moved away from your friend. They may feel responsible for comforting you when they were the ones seeking support. A better response is to stay with the person first. You might say, "That sounds painful. You care deeply about her. How are you managing with all of this?" If you later share a personal experience, keep it brief and connect it to their needs. "I went through something similar and I remember how uncertain it felt. If it helps, I'm here to listen." Your story should support the speaker, not replace them.
Grandmother is really ill.
I know exactly what you're going through. When my dog died, I couldn't even get out of bed.
I'm just so afraid of losing her and it's been really hard.
I'm here for you. Take all the time you need.
These habits have something important in common. They shift attention away from the speaker. Interrupting shifts attention to our words. Preparing an answer shifts attention to our thoughts. Unwanted advice shifts attention to our solutions. Phone checking shifts attention to our distractions. Assumptions shift attention to our conclusions. Personal storytelling shifts attention to our experiences. The solution is not to become passive. Active listening means actively giving attention to the other person's message. You can show this through eye contact that feels natural, an open posture, brief acknowledgments, thoughtful questions, and responses that reflect what you heard. Try using this simple pattern in your next important conversation. First, listen until the person finishes. Second, identify the main idea or feeling. Third, reflect it back in your own words. Finally, ask what they need. For example, if a coworker says, I feel like my contributions are ignored during meetings. You could respond, you feel overlooked even though you are trying to contribute. Is that right? Would you like to talk through what happened? Or would you like help deciding how to address it? This response does not assume. It checks understanding and gives the person control over the next step. You may not change every habit immediately. You might still interrupt when excited or reach for your phone automatically. What matters is noticing the pattern and correcting it. If you interrupt, say, "I'm sorry, I spoke too soon. Please continue." If you misunderstood, say, "I think I made an assumption. Can you explain what you meant?" Repairing a listening mistake can strengthen trust because it shows humility and respect. People do not always need perfect answers. Often, they need evidence that their words have reached another human being. When you listen without rushing, assuming, fixing, or redirecting, you create room for honesty. Over time, people may become more willing to share because they learn that they do not have to compete for your attention. The central lesson is simple. People feel unheard when our attention repeatedly moves away from their experience. They feel understood when we stay present long enough to understand what they are saying and what it means to them. This week, choose one habit to notice. Maybe you interrupt. Maybe you give advice too quickly. Maybe you prepare your answer while the other person is still speaking. Practice replacing that habit with one respectful action. Pause. Ask a question. Reflect a feeling. Put the phone away. Give the speaker room. If this lesson helped you recognize a hidden listening habit, please like the video and share it with someone who may benefit. Subscribe to the channel for the complete Active Listening Mastery series. In the next session, we will explore how to listen without judging, so you can create conversations where people feel safe enough to speak honestly.